Being 7 o'clock, I will call this meeting to order. Is there anyone here for public comment? None? Okay, next is review of minutes. Next is review of minutes.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the minutes for October 16th, 2024, and November 6th, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Okay, next on the agenda is the Veterans Committee discussion. Select Board member DeVault and myself put together two proposals for this committee for the board to entertain, and wanted to share those. Ed, do you want to go through yours first?
Yes, so mine is it's from, nothing's changed since the last time we discussed it. So the proposal was, the only thing that's changed is we did have some people volunteer for these positions, but this is still a proposal. So the makeup was to have one member, the proposal was to have one member from each of the veterans organizations in town, plus a member, we're calling it a youth veteran, which would be a veteran for post-2000 for the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, to help get more youth veterans involved in veterans activities. And then for the beginning of the committee, it had one select board member that I volunteered to serve, just to steer the committee to get it up and running. And the intention was, at a later time, once the committee was up and running, that position the select board member could peel off, and then it could just be a member of the community that's not affiliated with any veteran group. So that would make up a 5-member board. The only expectation for town involvement would be at the most, once every 2 months, we would just ask that we could have a meeting with either a representative from the town administrator's office or the veterans agent or both. And from time to time, they might make periodic updates to the select board. So that was the initial proposal. We do have some names signed up for the different positions tentatively, but aside from that, that's the makeup.
And you feel with the initial topics of discussion that this board should be responsible with reviewing the job description, Memorial Day parade, and increasing engagement with younger vets?
Correct, yeah, when we did have a discussion, I mean, the main point was just to kind of get the committee formed, but we thought it would be a good idea just to share, like, if we, what are like 3 things that we think might be important that we would want to start discussing. And yeah, those are the 3. Just a kind of like a housekeeping of the job description, because there were some portions of the job description that I think are outdated. I know that there was some reference to like towns other than Clinton being responsible. That was one thing, and to also just to compare it with some other similar town sizes, some other similar veterans agent job descriptions, see where it stacks up. And then lastly, just review any state regulations for the veteran office, just to make sure that we don't have any gaps. So that was one thing. The second thing, probably the biggest thing, was the Memorial Day parade. Just exploring ways to help recruit new organizations into the parade, assist with flag laying, assist with event coordination the day of, assist with post-parade gathering. And then, yes, the third topic of discussion was how to increase engagement with younger vets.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
So was that binding? I thought that we agreed it wasn't going to be like a board of directors. So is the job description review binding?
No,
Probably
we're just-
not.
Okay.
No,
No.
no, it's not binding.
So I put together an alternative proposal, which I think a lot of it overlaps, but it was just a different approach, with the goals to solve for event-based needs and resources, and then also to provide a forum for discussion about local veterans-related issues, and kind of also saying, you know, we get feedback all the time, and feedback can be sent at any point. It does not have to be committee-based. We've got a couple emails today with feedback. So just want to stress that point, but the group overview in my proposal would be to assist the Veteran Services Office with action plans for annual events such as Veterans Day and Memorial Day, and offer input and insights to elected and appointed officials regarding specific areas of veterans, specific areas of interest that most impact our veterans. The makeup of it would be a little bit different than what was the alternative proposal. I was suggesting that all the volunteers would need to be Clinton residents and veterans, unless they were event-based volunteers or assistants, and they don't need to be veterans. And I was suggesting meeting quarterly or have ad hoc meetings that were needed based on events. So, for example, if you have to have more meetings leading up to Memorial Day.
Right.
My concern with yours was a little bit more, I guess there is more formality to it. I was kind of looking to more, maybe like walk before we run, but I guess to me, it's like, I guess like a typical board that we have, like the library, well, I guess not the library board, but it's the Historical Commission, it's all the other boards that we've appointed, Cultural Commission, that would be like, require them to put like an agenda together, open meeting. Mine was a little bit more on a volunteer basis, and a little bit more based on the needs that we had, because I think a lot of this sparked out of a need for assistance with Memorial Day. So
And how many members was,
I hadn't kind of come to like a member, it was just more like if, I guess, thinking we have a hard time getting people involved, so keeping it open to anyone who might want to be involved, but.
Madam Chair, I mean, I think for matter of discussion, I think yours is more of a condensed version of what, you know, a lot of what Eddie says in his, but I think that already, I think the Veterans Agent had discussed the fact that there was a committee in place already with the stipulation that there would be at least one or more, I guess, of the veterans organizations on that committee for the Memorial Day Parade. I mean, not to exclude anybody from it. And we all know getting volunteers for any function is very difficult. So I don't think you ever want to discourage anybody from getting involved in it. But I think you're right. I think this is, you know, a new venture, so I would prefer that we simplify it. And I guess my suggestion would be that on the onset that we would go with your handout tonight as a starter.
so what's the simplification then? Is it just that instead of having, because in mine I have like one member from each group, we just kind of like get rid of that and just leave it open to?
No, that's not what I said. I said at least one,
Yeah.
or if all of the organizations want to participate. I didn't exclude anybody.
No,
No, but mine, it doesn't have specific to organization, so
Yeah.
if no one from the PAV would like to participate,
Yep,
then, like, it doesn't hamper the board. And then, you know, like, it doesn't, the makeup of it doesn't have to be required for, like, when you served. It could just be anyone, and it wouldn't be appointed, it would be more of a volunteer-based
sure.
committee.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have any problem with that. So it sounds like that's the only, the biggest difference is that we're just foregoing the, like, each group has a representative, and we're just saying, like, and do we even have a limit to the number of people? Do we want to have it 5, or are we saying it'll be just open to as many people that want to join?
I think it would be open, and then, I mean, if I don't.
Well, I think
see
the
a lot of
veteran
people.
agent, when this was first brought up, there was five that had volunteered, 2 were veterans. And there was, I think the concept was then at least moving to have at least one of the 3 veteran or 4 veteran organizations, that there'd be at least one organization that come forward. But I mean, I can't speak for the veteran agent, but I mean, obviously, if all 4 organizations wanted to be on the committee, I don't think there would be any issue in that at all. I mean, it's a Veteran Day parade. I mean, that's the whole concept of it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be, it just would be more open-ended.
Right.
Like if
I mean, no one would
2
be
people from the
excluded from
VFW
it. No one
wanna
would be
come,
excluded,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, as long as as long as each veterans group in town has the opportunity to join the advisory committee, I don't have a problem. It doesn't have to be one member from each. If 2 people from one and 1 from another or whatever, like that's fine with me. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I just want to make sure that we're in agreement on is that, like, this advisory committee is open to having discussions about any topics that it sees fit. It wouldn't be restricted just to Memorial Day planning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, anything that is like, I think veterans related that, I mean, I think in the last meeting, we brought up like some new stipulations to the HEROES Act, like how can we maybe make that information, more readily available? What can we do to communicate better? So I think there is like a lot of opportunity there to say, like, what's the best way to communicate with either information we have, and also what's the best way to gather concerns among the residents of Clinton about certain things. And if people aren't comfortable with having that discussion at the meeting, we've said it over and over again, like, we're happy to get feedback in any way, whether it's, via email, phone call, we get feedback all the time, so.
Sure.
If people just don't feel comfortable with that, then they can, certainly don't have to go to this board if you have an issue,
Right.
or this group, I'll just call them a committee, the Veterans Committee. But it's I think getting everybody in the same room often brings up like new ideas, and maybe we can mobilize more people to get involved, to help us plan. I'm sure there's more people who, well, I don't want to say that, like, I'm sure there's more people who would like to help with planning for Memorial Day, because we've mentioned it before, and there aren't a lot of people, so I don't want to turn people away.
Right.
And then maybe if, maybe in a year, we can say, like, how's it going? And then if we need to make it a more formal situation, maybe we do, but just wanted to kind of try it out.
Well, Madam Chair, just, having served on a lot of committees, the 150th and different things, and doing Old Home Day, obviously, last year, but once you get started, and let's just say that you're looking to expand the parade, okay, on Memorial Day, and the goal of one group of people is to go out and try to get more participation as far as, are there more bands that could be available? Could we find out if there are bugle, those type of groups, the drum and bugle corps, and different things like that. I mean, that's why, you do need more people in a lot of different situations if you really want to expand it. But like you said, you have to walk before you run. So, I mean, it's like you get into it, and then you find out where you have to go, or, how you can make it work better.
Yeah.
So,
I don't really have a problem with any of that, with the only exception I have is that I do think that we should have representation from, I think the youth veteran position is a great idea. And to be perfectly frank, and if anyone from Clinton is interested in filling that role, please, reach out to us and sign up. But I tried to, so I did have people volunteer for some of these positions, and I reached out to as many people from Clinton that served in Iraq and Afghanistan and asked them if they'd be interested in serving, and I was unable to find somebody from Clinton. I was able to find somebody, a veteran from Sterling, who is familiar with Clinton and knows people from Clinton and would be willing to serve just to help out and give kind of like that perspective of a younger veteran and help us try to come up with some ideas to help get like younger veterans involved in some of these activities. So, I mean, I think my only ask would be if we can find somebody from Clinton that can fill that role, then great. But if we cannot find somebody from Clinton, then I think we should open that up to anyone that's interested, even if they're not from Clinton. Again, if we find someone from Clinton, great, but if not, I think we should leave it open to have some representative on that Veterans Council that is, in that younger demographic.
And that would be just in that younger demographic?
Exactly, just for that one. I feel confident that we'll be able to get volunteers that we'll be able to find 4 or 5 volunteers, but if I just would like to leave that option open. If we can't find anyone from Clinton, then allow someone not from Clinton, but that is still interested in serving and interested in volunteering their time, that we allow them to serve that role.
Okay, to represent that like youth.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. All right. I don't know if we require a vote for this or
Well, maybe what we can do is,
just wanna.
maybe we don't have to vote on it tonight. I mean, we can, but, or what we can do is, me and you can get together offline and just kind of like merge
Yeah,
the
and then
two
vote on that.
proposals.
Yeah,
And
that's a
then
good
come
idea.
up with one proposal and then
Yeah.
we'll vote on it.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. Okay, next
Well,
up.
just, Madam Chairman, I think it's kind of awkward. I mean, we do have the veterans agent here. I would like to see at least him participate in this exercise. I mean, I think it's important to see, get some input from him. And,
Would you like to come up and speak?
well, I didn't mean now, or
Oh,
I'm just
well,
saying, no.
I didn't want to speak from back here.
Yeah.
Thought
that's what you meant.
I don't want to
I
put
mean,
you I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm just saying that.
Well, I had sent mine to him and asked him for feedback.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, and that's fine, I'll participate. On a side note, Ed, I did serve in both those wards, but I guess I'm not the youth that you're looking for.
Well, if you want to serve on your own committee, I guess.
I don't when you said the young guys, so I was the old guy, I just want to know where I fall in there, right? No, yeah, if you want, when you guys merge it, I'll be more than happy to sit down.
Okay.
Because I know what you're saying, we don't want to send anybody away, but at the same
Yeah.
token, there's got to be a size limit, because, you get to a point where you're getting stuff done, and then you get too many people, and you don't, I don't know if we get to that point, because
Right.
we can't get volunteers, but I agree, there's a certain number. That's why I came up with 5 before, but if we get 7 or somebody, I don't want to turn it into, I don't know what it'll look like.
I don't know what it'll look
But
like.
yeah,
either.
I'll sit down.
So
with you.
maybe if, like, we'll put a proposal together, and maybe we can just target 5 to 7 and see
Yeah.
who comes up. And,
That's fine.
and then we can certainly, it doesn't have to, once it's voted on, be set in stone, but
Perfect.
we said, just kind of wanted to try to solve for both the gathering, the event-based needs, but also like brainstorming ways we can better like communicate and also gather feedback and
Absolutely.
so.
All right, I'll give it to you.
All right, we'll run that by you before our next meeting so that you can like give us input and then we can
Great, thanks.
finalize it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, conservation agent services proposal. The town of Sterling has provided a draft intermunicipal agreement to share conservation agent services with the town of Clinton.
Madam Chair, I had a Conservation Commission meeting tonight and solicited input on the agreement. I know it says in point 3 that it's hired on the grade 6 of the town of Sterling. Then it still says 100% employee of the town of Clinton, and reimbursement will come from the town of Sterling. Is that backward, or are they going to be our employee?
I think it was supposed to be the other way around.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's one thing they noticed. And you just make sure that point 3 language is cleaned up. And then, based on the commission's professional experience, they were thinking that maybe 5 to 7 years of experience is probably too steep. As I said at our last meeting, the popular opinion is there's 2 pools of applicants or there was before COVID. There was the sunsetting older members who were looking for something on the way out, and the up-and-coming emerging professionals. The older group after COVID seems to have dried up, so the commission's opinion is that maybe lowering that to 3 to 5 years or a degree in a relevant field can substitute for 2 years. I can send this language over to you. They're just saying that the demographics in other towns would make this tough to fill with these. So I don't know how strongly Sterling feels about that, but I can forward this to you and pass on to them. And they were also asking if a member of our commission could be involved either in screening candidates or interviewing, which I didn't think there'd be a problem with that, since their technical skills are
That's good.
far
point.
beyond
I
mine.
hope they would, yeah.
Yeah, so they're very excited. I'll send that stuff along, but if there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Nice work, Sean.
Okay,
Do the
yes,
best we
thank
can.
you.
No, I appreciate the board's support, and the commission does too.
Okay,
So I think if the board, Madam Chair, could vote to enter into this agreement, subject to review by town council. Mr. Gibbons does have a copy of it. He wasn't able to be here tonight. But just to make sure, I think to Mr. Kerrigan's point, to make sure that, everything is in order the way that it's written.
So moved.
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0.
Thanks again for your support.
Thank you.
Okay. Traffic Committee report recommendations. Some of these are still in progress, so there's no vote needed, but there might be a couple. So, Jack's Mills Apartments, traffic and sidewalk flow. A few people had expressed concerns about the intersection of Main Street and Union Street at the entrance of Jack's Mills Apartments. So Mr. Cunningham updated the committee that requirements for the planning board have the developer making improvements to sidewalks and limiting entry points to that property. So we're just working with that developer to, we're summarizing some concerns we have about the traffic flow and some of the things that were maybe approved with a special permit to review again with the police department, DPW, and fire chief. So that is ongoing. If anyone has any feedback, let me know. Water and Chestnut Street sidewalk situation, the police chief was contacted about concerns with pedestrian crossing at Water Street during services at the funeral home. But the superintendent of public works stated that he applied for a grant for crosswalk signage, in the interim, there will be signage put at that crosswalk during services to alert traffic. So, again, once we hear about the grant, we may or may not come back to the board to determine whether we want to put one of those blinking sidewalk alert apparatus right there, similar to the crosswalk at the middle school to the Veterans Athletic Fields, is being reviewed for safety measures. Suggested flashing lights at the school zone. And we also talked about maybe putting on a timer, because the police chief indicated, rightfully so, that when things are kind of up and running for a long time, then people tend to ignore them. So we're just trying to find the best, does it need to be permanent? Is it temporary? Knowing that people sometimes disregard it, or we could put it up, but it's not always effective. So once we find out more information about that grant, we'll let you know.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So are we talking like a 50-gallon plastic orange drum with like blinking lights, or are we talking like a press the button and like a crosswalk like
I
sign?
believe it's more of like the press the button crosswalk sign,
Okay.
but in the interim, because of the traffic seems to be increasing coming down Water Street, and with the parking situation near that funeral home, I think the police department was looking for kind of like a temporary solution. So where if they had services, especially now that it's gotten dark so early, to put up there to alert people, like to slow down until we kind of determine if a grant's available. And then we'll also have to determine, if the grant's fantastic. If there's 3 places in Clinton that require maybe one of those blinking crosswalks, is that the best place for it? I don't know. So just a heads up that there was a request for it there, but we're still kind of entertaining that.
Okay.
So TBD. Then townwide overnight winter parking ban, which is something we've addressed in the past. The police chief requested the committee review a townwide winter overnight parking ban, as was done in the past, from November to April. We did discuss needing better education about current storms, a current storm-only parking ban, but concerns were expressed that residents will have difficulty finding parking spaces all winter, even on days when there are no storms. So I don't really think there was like, were we looking for a vote on that?
No,
No.
I think, to the chair's point, I think the police chief and the superintendent of public works were looking to address problem areas. So if there are places where cars aren't moving during the storm and the plows are going around them, then they'll try to address that. And in the meantime, maybe see some ideas from what other communities are doing as well, to see how we could better manage that. But I think the committee just felt just a total November to April overnight parking ban every night of the week, it's going to be a hardship on people finding a place to put cars off the street. But we got to do better during the storm to keep them off the street. And are there other ways? They talked maybe about parking only on one side of the street, like they do in bigger cities during the winter, so that it's not taking up both sides, and at least give some ability to clear the street of snow. So the goal is to try to keep snow cleared and major storms, but doing that where cars are off the street, for weeks where there's no snow, it's a hardship. So it's a tough issue, trying to figure out what's best.
Madam Chair, I'd argue that the policy we have now works, we just don't enforce it. So if there's a car in front of a plow, we should tow it. That's what happens in other towns, in other cities, and you learn quickly. Our public safety people need to do their jobs, and if you don't understand that you can't park on the street during a snowstorm, then you'll learn quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, so it continues to be a problem.
And you're right, and I think that's where the
Yeah.
police chief and the DPW superintendent is going to try to focus on where that is happening and take action. Yeah, absolutely. So.
Next was an overnight parking ban in the downtown business district. The police chief requested the committee to review an overnight parking ban in the downtown district. The committee discussed that there's parking for residents on High Street in lots behind the buildings, and removing vehicles overnight will open more downtown parking during the day. The superintendent of public works stated it's easier for crews to clear snow from downtown when the area is clear. And the police chief shared, there's really nothing, once the snow starts, there's limited options. So given that there are, there's ample parking behind most of the buildings that have residential units, they were hoping to, the committee is recommending no parking on High Street year-round beginning January, from the hours of 12 to 6.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
So what's the logic in here? We already have a winter parking ban. Why
No,
would-
we don't.
From November to
Do we?
April, during storms, I guess I don't understand why we need to clear snow in July. And we already, for a town where people complain, wrongly I would add, that there's a parking problem, we're taking a third of the day away from perfectly good spots that could be used. If someone parks until 6 AM and goes to work, I don't see the harm in that. Like, I just don't understand why the street has to be clear year-round. We have parking spots, we should use them.
My notes might be different, but
No,
maybe year-round is,
Yeah, I think there was, it's mostly looking at the High Street area. And I think there were some areas where they feel, for convenience, that there's plenty of parking and parking lots behind the building, and for convenience, people are parking on High Street. And if people leave by 6, to your point, that's fine, because we're not using it overnight. But not everyone is leaving. They're parking there overnight and then leaving the cars there during the day, so using it as kind of permanent
Do
parking.
we ticket them?
That I don't.
That's
yeah.
a problem. We have the rules, the problem is we're not enforcing the rules. The ideal parking situation is, you have a spot, it could serve 3 purposes. There's someone during the day who's shopping downtown or working downtown, there's people at night who are going to a restaurant, to the Strand when it reopens, and there's people overnight who maybe are sleeping. I would argue that if we have the signs say 2-hour parking at 6 o'clock, it starts at 6, if they're not out of there by 8, then we just ticket them, and then if that's a problem, then we, continue the enforcement. They're perfectly good spots there, I just don't understand why we're not gonna use them for 6 hours a day, just because we need to clear snow for 2 months out of the year. It's my argument, I'm sorry. I'm gonna lose this one, but
no, I
I
mean,
don't see the sense in this.
yeah, I mean, I do think that, like, clearing of the snow is exponentially more difficult when there's cars parked there.
Absolutely, tow those, we can.
Well, that was what the police chief was saying, like, once the snow starts, it's hard to get tow trucks and it's hard to get them out. They have limited options once the snow starts.
I think what we want to try to accomplish is just preventing people from abusing that privilege of parking on High Street and just parking there, people that like live there and just, I think there are some instances where they do have spots to park behind the building, but because of the convenience, they choose to park on High Street. But I think that could be, that to Selectman Kerrigan's point, I think the way to do that is just to restrict the amount of time that someone can use one of those parking spots.
Which we currently do.
We do, and I don't know, and I've always thought 2 hours is a little, because you could, if you park and you go into Clinton's and you have dinner and then have drinks or something, you could be there
Too
for more than
tight.
2 hours.
Yeah.
So I almost would think we might want to adjust the period of time, but I don't know if I'd be in favor of just saying no parking at all between 12 and 6. That seems a little draconian even for me, and that would definitely kind of solve the problem, but
I don't hear anybody complain about parking anymore then.
yeah, I think I'd rather work on ways to identify the people that are abusing the parking privileges. It's not difficult. If you talk to any business, they'll tell you. They'll be like, these 3 guys, they'll tell you the car, they'll tell you how long it's always there. It's not really a difficult thing to figure out who is kind of abusing that parking privilege. I think the way to go about this is just to have a limit on the amount of time that people can use the parking so that it is welcoming to people that are going down to High Street to shop and to spend time down there. But that it would discourage people that live there that are just parking on High Street when they have, I mean, everyone that lives down there is supposed to have parking spaces outside of the street. So I think that, I agree with Selectman Kerrigan. I don't know if I would be on board with this.
Traffic enforcement is a boring job, but it's, if that downtown's gonna survive, it's something that's essential, and I don't think we're doing it as well as we could.
Thoughts on snow-related events? What's our current situation with those blue
When the
lights,
blue light goes up.
which no one knows about, but
I don't know how they don't know. We've been talking about it
I
for
live
3
here, but
years.
unless I go to Hannaford's, I don't see it. Like,
They're everywhere.
they're not everywhere.
Well, they're at the intersections, right? They're at the intersection of High Street and Water Street,
Yeah,
Main Street.
I would argue we could do a better job at that, but,
Well, we could.
but that's what I'm saying, like, even if I'm looking for them and I know them and I'm still kind of missing them.
That's fair.
It's, might not be. But we can go back and talk about like enforcement, but,
Well,
so right now when the blue lights are on, no parking on streets,
Overnight.
overnight parking.
In the, and we can start utilizing, I know, Mr. Duffy had talked about, I don't know where we're at, we should probably ask him for an update on those informational LED screens. We were talking about, I know that we have, I think we were talking about putting one at the fire station, one up at the high school, and I think there were, and I think one by the Parks and Rec. Or
Yeah.
Parks and Rec has its own right now, a smaller one.
All right, so maybe we can talk about enforcement and then maybe more, I mean, at some point the signs will go up, but social media, website.
Yeah, something, I
we
agree,
can send-
there could be something more
Like
to
a
communicate that,
snow
hey,
event.
yeah, snow event, don't park.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and we do website and all-call
Right.
whenever the blue lights are turned on.
We do that now.
Yeah.
At a certain point, it's Massachusetts, it snows here, and people, I don't know how people don't know to get their cars off the street.
I thi-
It's,
Yeah.
this isn't Hawaii.
It's tricky though, because it's like if plows can't get around it, then the cars stay there for a
Totally.
while, and then
You learn quick,
businesses-
trust me.
Businesses hurt.
When I was in Cambridge, you gotta go to Pat's Towing, that's a long haul, and you're gonna learn, you gotta bring cash. You don't have a car, so you gotta figure out a way to get out there.
And there is
You learn quickly.
parking behind.
I mean,
There's plenty of
the-
options.
The issue becomes that there is a parking issue in the town of Clinton.
You missed that part, there isn't.
There
We
there
talked
most
about it
certainly is,
early.
because I did point out to the community and economic developer that the parking survey that was done was using parking spaces that were private businesses that did not belong to the town, which affected the overall report. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to go down to Pearl Street and see that that's barely a one-way, you can barely get one vehicle down there. So Chestnut Street, all those vehicles parking on the sidewalk, that's an issue year-round. And for yourself being a runner, you see that all the time. People have to walk in the street. There is a parking issue, plain and simple. And if people are gonna be allowed to park on the sidewalk for 3/4 of the year, you can't expect to change that behavior because now you turn on blue lights, which goes hand in hand with why the police chief is requesting the process that they are.
There definitely is an issue on certain streets in town where, I don't know if it's because everyone has 2 cars now.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't an issue before, but like, there are some streets in Clinton where you can tell just by driving down them that there is no place else for these people to park than in the street. So they seem to just get by, they just like shovel their cars out when the plow goes by and the plow covers their car with snow and then they just shovel the car out and then that's the end of it. But
Look at the bylaws. The bylaw, it's 1 1/4 parking spaces per unit. Every person in the household who's above the age of 16 typically has their own vehicle. So if you have 3 or 4 people in one unit, you're gonna have 3 or 4 vehicles for that one unit.
Right,
I mean,
but-
down the street, there's a 3-family, without any exaggeration, there's 9 vehicles in that they don't have the off-street parking, plain and simple. But until our bylaws are addressed, to address that matter, where this is always going to be an issue.
Or we're gonna have nine spots for a multifamily?
It's gonna be
Listen,
more than
we
one-
have, it's a
gonna
car,
be-
it's a car
unrealistic,
problem, not a
but-
parking problem.
It's unrealistic, but, yeah.
Well, I'm not saying it needs to be 9, but the point being, 1.25 is also unrealistic.
I would say none. You can get creative. If you want a car, figure out a place to put it.
All right, so they're recommending no parking on High Street year-round beginning January from the hours of 12 to 6. Sounds like that's a no, but we can, I don't know how, no one makes a motion, we don't vote on it, right?
Right, yep, there's no, it's just a recommendation, so if the board doesn't want to pursue, then
Okay.
that's fine. You can, the
All right.
committee can go back and review
Yeah,
further.
I was gonna say, I'll go back to the traffic committee and we'll brainstorm more ideas. Parking lines on Church Street, there were some concerns that overflow parking from the Council on Aging Center on Church Street was at times causing obstructions in the area. I think that's, it's actually my neighborhood, but it's kind of was all, not just the people parking on the Council of Aging, but over the weekends too, getting kind of close to the curb. So the committee recommended painting yellow lines restricting parking areas of concern near the entrances to the property in the intersection. Those are the same yellow triangle lines, just to make sure everyone has a clear turning lane.
How far is it gonna go?
It's already there, so you know, can't really unpaint them now.
Better to ask forgiveness.
Yeah. But it actually, part of the recommendation was to paint like parallel parking. We decided not to paint the parallel parking lines, but to just give a little bit of a buffer, because turning, when people are parked on both sides now, after the sidewalk installation and the paving, it is a little bit more narrow, so they just go up a little bit more, so there's still probably like 4 or 5 parking spots between the corner and the Council on Aging, and then there's plenty on either side and all the way up the street, so it just was more of a safety clearance to turn. But people were parking right on that intersection, making it hard. So, done. And then there was a request for a stop sign on Chase Street at Acre Park. So a resident made a request to change the yield sign on Chase Street at Acre Park to a stop sign. The committee discussed concerns that the intersection can cause confusion for motorists, but there's no history of accidents at that site. The committee's recommending changing the yield sign to a stop sign at that location. So the reason the committee is recommending changing it from a yield sign to a stop sign, I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with you're not really like yielding into the flow of traffic, you're yielding and crossing into oncoming traffic to go to the other side. Does that make sense? Yeah, so you're yielding into
Yeah.
a lane of traffic that kind of has a blind spot as well.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the recommendation to replace the yield sign on Chase Street at Acre Park with a stop sign.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Great
All
idea.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. And then just an update, that committee's old and new business. The police and fire chief will review parking near the intersection of Cameron Street, turning onto Oak Street to be sure emergency vehicles can make that corner for recommendation to be presented at the next meeting. So that was all from the traffic committee.
Great work.
Next up is to continue to go through the ARPA spreadsheets with any updates and any final decisions we need to make, so, let me see. Let me see. I noticed from, let me see. From the last meeting to this meeting, some things went back to pending and some things went to complete.
Yeah, I think it was really looking, I think some of the, the initial allocations, they might have been flipped on police and fire, a couple line items. So really went through every select board meeting and vote and trying to make sure that it was accurate and it was right. So there were some changes and updates to make sure that what was approved or what was asked for was accurate. And again, I was picking it up after the fact, so I didn't want to, I think I did notice some mistakes, and I didn't want to, be in a situation where people had expectations. So I think the way researching all the files and going through the selectmen minutes, that I think it's fairly accurate right now, but you will see a couple of changes. So the biggest one was in the radio, police radio. I think I had that flipped with the fire line item. But that police radio added with the dispatch additions that the board recently did, that should be accurate now. So, and then it did get some updates from departments on money that will be turned back, so that's a little bit more. Mr. Duffy will be coming in next meeting with final business grant awards, but he's anticipating, potentially of those two programs, maybe 70 to 75,000 that will be available for reallocation as well too. But I didn't want to put that down until he was absolutely sure come the next meeting on December 4th.
So what's the red and blue
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so the red,
mean?
so the red was just, those reds on the allocation amount, they shouldn't be red. I think it was just on the red, on the remaining balance red was what was being turned back, but then the other numbers that were red were numbers that I didn't have, definite, numbers for. So the fire chief did give me his turnout gear number, so that's good. He's still working on wrapping up the SEMA number. He did say that the AES dispatch server should be spot on, that 33,000. And he feels on the 205,000 for the radios that he wasn't sure, being at that meeting, whether it was actually in the approved column. So I had it in the approved column, but he didn't have any status on that. So, and then on the fly car, the pandemic equipment, those were, he was looking for the monitors and the fly car. The fly car is about $88,000. Each monitor, I think, is about $67,000. So he was indicating that if there was only, I think the prices went up from his a long time ago estimate. So he had gotten approved for 125, but if it's going to be for one car, the car and one monitor, that he would be looking for 156,735. So that he would be needing,
So
he would be
needs more
short
money?
about $31,000, $31,735.
What's that one?
Otherwise, if 125, he'd get one car or close, maybe just shy of two monitors, but he wouldn't get both. I think
So this is
two
all the
moni-
up-to-date information that you have so far, and the red is maybe?
Yeah, the red is just not having a definite what's going to be spent out of those columns. And again, I
So it
printed
says
off.
remaining balance, so that's
Right. So the number that's on the unspent balance that's being turned back, the 47,425, that's only made up of the 4 categories in the completed section. But there could be these other red sections down below, there could be numbers in those sections which could add to that.
So how do you want us to look at this? I'm kind of confused. Like,
I
we
think-
have to like make some decisions here, and I'm like very concerned about.
Right, I think the bottom line is Currently, there's projects outstanding for 286,000, and there's 315,000 that's available to fund those. With the potential of, come next meeting, with the potential of maybe additional in the business grant program.
So, so the 286, that comes from totaling everything from auditorium chair replacements down to budget software?
Right.
Okay, and so that's, so those are the only things that are left that are requested but not allocated yet, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then, we have 314,000 available to allocate to cover that 286?
Right.
Okay. So if, unless anyone has, I mean, we've been staring at these items for a couple meetings now. Is there any reason why we don't just move forward on everything from the auditorium chair replacements down to the budget software? I mean,
I
even,
swear we voted on the auditorium chairs last time, right?
We did, and
Yeah.
the question was, well, I don't know if we firmed it, I think,
So,
but the other issue was the flooring. And I think we all have it in front
Yeah,
of
we
us
voted for
from
the chairs.
yeah, we
Kelowna
voted for
Hardwood,
the
which
chairs.
was a fantastic price, I think.
Is that the price, though? 68,000?
Yeah, yep,
For the floor?
yep. That's a fantastic price.
I mean, there's different levels of how you want to do the floor, but total replacement is 68.9. That's with water base. If you want oil, it's a little cheaper.
yeah, I mean, it's just, I would recommend that we just approve this, because it's November 20th.
No, I know.
You know, and so even, I mean, they have to be under agreement, so I think that would mean that even if we approve this, they're gonna have to go out and get quotes and then, like, agree on a quote. I think there's probably some procurement, like, rules we have to follow.
Right.
That'll take some time.
Yeah, the biggest one would be the floors, because it's over 50,000, so that would have to be put out to bid. The
Okay.
other ones, you just need quotes, and the gym lease is already out to bid. That's due next Friday, so that one's already in progress. So really, if you go forward with the town hall floor, that one would need to get going pretty soon.
All right, so if,
Sorry, just a quick question.
Sure.
So just to be clear, so for these completed projects, we're adding up the final cost of the completed projects, and then we're adding up the amount allocated for the pending projects, correct? As the amount of money we have spent so far?
Right, not even spent, but I think all it's looking at, the town was given 4,184,000 of ARPA money. The second column are all of the monies, 3,917,000 that the board has approved projects for. So.
Yeah,
So that is minus from the 4.1 million to come to 267. However, in that remaining balance column, there is going to be money unspent, and then that's added into the completed projects with unspent balance. So that 47 represents those 4 projects in the completed section. However, there is most likely going to be more money in the pending projects that is going to come due as well.
okay, so you're adding, for the 3.9 million is everything we've allocated.
Right.
Which includes, like, say, for example, 166,000 for the HVAC.
Right.
And then you're adding the remaining balance to that number?
Yeah, I mean, because now it wasn't spent, so it can get added back in. So it's being deducted, but then being added back
Back
in.
in.
So,
So it should be the same number if you total the final cost for the completed and then the pending allocated.
so the completed projects with unspent balance, the 47,425, that comes from everything in the remaining balance column that has a final cost.
Right.
And then I think what you're saying, Mike, is these other ones like the, the Business Recovery Grant Program down through Strand Theater redevelopment. Those are all, they're not finished except for, there's one there that's finished, 33,000. But all those other ones you're saying, when the final cost does get determined, that money would go into this completed projects with unspent balance.
Right,
Right.
right.
I think,
Because Mr. Duffy did say he's definitely going to have money left in those first two programs.
right,
In either column where it says bidding, those are out to RFP. So
Yep.
if bids come in lower than the estimate,
right.
then there's going to be money left over there as well, too.
The catch being though, if we don't get those bids and calculate that number before the end of the calendar year, we won't be able to reallocate the leftover money.
Right, but those bids are coming in
Okay.
before your next meeting.
Okay.
I have one question on, so where it says the police fire drone program, who submitted the request?
Police chief.
The police chief. So I don't know that, I think that should be amended to police drone program, because I don't know, I mean, was the 30,000 gonna be split by both departments? Or if the police department had submitted the $30,000 request, then I would say we amend that to the police drone program.
Yeah, and I still don't know what that drone's gonna be used for.
Yeah, or,
I don't
well,
like
it
drones,
was popped up as a new ask last meeting, is that correct?
with no details.
Yeah, I think with the budget
Okay.
software too. It was new, but we didn't really get much information.
Okay, so then, so Ed, were you saying that were you heading towards making a motion to approve?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not,
I know.
we're up against it
We
right
just-
now.
yeah.
So it's like, unless somebody has a better idea to spend the 30,000 on this is why it's
All right, so-
transparency, so you can see.
So, all right, so
have
we
to-
already approved the chair replacement.
Yep.
Does anybody have any objection to the skate park?
No.
Does anyone have an objection to the town hall
No.
floor?
Nope.
No.
We already voted on the gymnasium lease, right,
Yeah.
so, all right, so I'll make a motion to approve the skate park improvements of 45,000, town hall floor replacement 68,900, and reapprove or reconfirm the $50,000 for the chair replacement and the 75,000 for the gymnasium lease.
What about the budget software?
I thought we were saying that there wasn't a lot of information that
Okay,
came with that,
all right,
so.
no, that's fine. Second,
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So if if the police wants to submit additional information for our next meeting or present at our next meeting.
Yeah. And this budget software is something that you put on, right?
Right, yeah.
So do you have any,
It's just
More information?
it's the ClearGov product, which allows all of the department's requests to be put into a program that then they can monitor the budget, and the select board and finance committee can monitor the process as well, too.
I think anything that can assist with the budget.
Yeah.
So
I've seen the software.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget software request of $17,100.
Second.
second.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
All right, so then that's the only
So I
one.
think that leaves
So the
us,
drone is the only one we're
Terminator
left?
and,
so I think we just have 58,000 left to allocate. So,
So our last meeting in December is like the 15th, I think. 18th, thank you.
right, but it's gotta be
But,
in an agreement before the end of the calendar year, so
yeah,
whatever we,
so maybe we need to like, if we can figure out what we might have left and then what might be something we could reallocate this to that might,
I mean, just looking at the spreadsheet, like, we already approved the weed assistance, right? So I
Yeah.
think it would be helpful if that could get moved
complete.
up. The emergency fuel assistance, that went up,
Well,
right? Because we,
we approved it.
but
But
as
it
far
hasn't been
as,
out.
there is a process in place for distributing that now, right? Even though the money hasn't been dispersed.
Yeah, I mean, I would call that pending in my book, but assuming we'll use all of it, but even if we don't, we can't claw it back.
We need to come up with, what we need is like some line
Flexible.
item.
Yeah.
That's very flexible.
Yeah.
And very fast, so that if in the middle of December, if we find out, hey, we have an extra 25,000, we can just allocate it to that and make sure it's something that we don't have to wait to get bids, we can just put it into some sort of an agreement immediately.
I agree.
So we get that, we need, because we are inevitably gonna, as these bids come in, the available money is still gonna be there, we're gonna need to move quickly. So we'll have to think of something. It's like a Brewster's Millions
Yeah.
situation.
Yep. Okay. I had a few kind of sub-items from this, the Strand contingency plan. So we do have a legal document worked up.
Yes, I don't know, Mary Rose, do you wanna update, do you want me to, or?
No, you can go.
Okay, so we do have, a legal document, from town council approved by the Strand Committee. It's available for review and feedback, but the committee has already provided feedback. We feel, that this is the best agreement under the conditions. The way it basically works is the agreement or the access to the 300,000 goes, the agreement would initially be made with the current owner of the address of the Strand. And then if at such time that the Strand address gets sold and is a new owner, then the access to that money and all the terms for the access to that money just now revert over to the new owner of the Strand. And the mechanism of it is that when there is an investment that the new owner, that the owner is interested in doing into that property, that they bring that investment idea to the Strand Committee with quotes and estimates, and the committee has to agree if that investment is within the spirit of the renovations to the Strand Theater. And if they agree, then what happens is the new owner will make the investment, they'll pay for it 100%, and then they will provide proof of payment, and then the Strand Committee will vote to release 50% of the money that was spent. So for example, if they spend $100,000 on renovating the bathrooms, then the Strand Committee would approve $50,000 to get reimbursed to the investment. And that goes up to the 300,000.
Madam Chair. So is this, my understanding was that they'd put in 300,000, we're gonna put in 300,000, it's gonna be 600,000. It sounds like they're putting in 3, we're just backfilling there. So we're getting half what we wanted.
So I was of the same mindset, and it took, and Mary Rose can probably vouch, it took some, the town council and Phil kind of had to explain it to me, and ultimately, it is 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So it's like you either.
It's actually 3 and 6.
No, it's because you either like invest 300,000
Yeah.
and then get 300,000 to spend on further investments. Or you invest 600,000 and you get reimbursed 300,000. So both ways, you're only spending 300,000. Dude, I went through the same thing. So.
Except we're not, they could take the 300 and not spend it, then just use it as a reimbursement.
No. They have to, it's only for the 58 Strand, and 58 High. So we were very specific that it could only be for the Strand.
Right.
No other portion of that building, which is obviously 52 to 72. And so the feeling of the committee was that, I mean, because we did go around, there was a lot of discussion about the fact that, you know, they buy the Strand, so we're going to hand them $300,000. And then we said, no, we're not going to do that. If, let's just say they're going to put new bathrooms in, and it's going to cost them $100,000. Well, they pay the $100,000. We look at the job, we look at the receipts, they've paid it, we're going to give you $50,000 until you get up to the $300,000. So the town is assured that that $300,000 is being spent at 58 High Street and no place else. And that, they fulfilled their commitment, we fulfilled our commitment. And so that's how we felt there was a built-in guarantee to the town that, in fact, was going to be for the development of the Strand.
So I had no doubt about that it was going there. I wouldn't have supported otherwise. But like when we're talking about the rail trail and we get a grant from the state, we have a match to that grant. They give us so much, we match it. That's what I kind of thought we were doing here. They're going to put 300 in, we're going to put 300 in, we're going to get 600. It's going to cost a lot more than 600 to fix that place. I thought the idea was to kind of jumpstart it. If we're just backfilling 300,000, I don't know, it's just not what I envisioned.
But you would be if,
But they have no obligation to spend 300,000 more. They could just take the 300 for free. So we're
But
just
you
paying
Well,
for
not
the
if, not if they're investing 800 to $1 million, it certainly isn't going to do them any good to say, okay, just give me your 300,000, I'm going to take it and then I'm going to walk away. They've already made a substantial investment. So why would anybody in their right mind invest that kind of money and walk away from it because the town is saying, we'll give you 300,000? Doesn't make sense. I mean, it's going to help them in their development, obviously, but it's not going to secure their investment as far as what I would think they would be anticipating it would cost them to bring that up to today's standards.
You know, and it sounds like the process that they have in place is to assure that that doesn't happen, what you're describing, that they just can't take the 300 and sit on it. It sounds like that money, does it stay in the town's
Correct.
possession?
That's right.
Until they spend their
They
money.
have to show
and then
paid
they get the
receipts for the work.
reimbursed.
They have to show
But then
paid receipts
they're back
for
to
the work.
normal then.
no,
No, then
no.
it's just 50%
50%.
of what they spent. So if they spend $600,000, the only way they're getting the 300,000 from
They
the
said
town
they
of Clinton
spent-
is to get the
Correct.
600,000, is to spend 600,000.
Right.
50% reimbursement.
By approval by the Strand Committee, and then that was gonna be a question I had with the inspection, so.
I'm with you. I had the same,
You gotta understand, I mean, this could go very quickly. Let's just say they do the
Oh, it's going
bathrooms.
to be tens of millions of dollars.
They do a screen, which is $100,000. They have to buy new equipment,
Mm-hmm.
because the equipment that's in there, that doesn't belong, that wouldn't belong to the owners. They would have to either negotiate to buy what's there, or they would have to bring in, I mean, so 300,000 is
Show of good
not
faith.
a tremendous amount. I mean, it's gonna take a lot of money to, but
You know, and that's not small change either, you
No,
know, to
no,
your
it isn't,
point. If they're
no.
gonna spend, you know, $700,000, that extra 300 grand brings them to, you know, that million price that we kinda heard about.
in both scenarios, $600,000 will be invested into the Strand.
Yeah.
correct.
Gotcha.
So I thought about it the same way that you were,
That's
Sean.
fine.
And it took like 2-3 meetings. I was saying the
It
same
only
thing.
take me one, so I'm way ahead of you. Just kidding. I didn't go to
All right,
WPI, folks.
thanks
sorry.
for working that out.
So
Yes.
do we need a motion
Yeah, so-
for this?
Or do we?
Right, so what I would be, I would be making a motion for us to endorse the contract and to charge the town administrator with getting the signature from the current Strand owner to finalize the agreement, so that the money will be officially in an agreement.
How about you just make the motion instead of say,
So moved.
Okay.
us?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye, thank you.
5-0.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Emergency fuel assistant update, I saw an email follow-up about that. There's been a process put in place for that, Michael?
Right. The Council on Aging has put together some guidelines, application, and some information. I know there was some question in the past of how it would be run, but I think it's best we feel on the Council on Aging that they can manage it. We'll do an interagency agreement for them to oversee the funds. It's not only open for seniors, it's open for the whole community, but they can help people apply for fuel assistance. So this is going to be for emergency aid, so for people that have no other means to go to, whether it's gas, or mostly for heat, so if it's for gas or oil, or even if it's a broken down, equipment that they can't get repaired, just to kind of have criteria that we're helping people. But there's going to be a limit as to what people can get, so you can't keep coming back. If you're eligible for other programs, the senior center will have you apply for those first, and then this is a last resort to go from there. And they feel last year there were probably 2 cases they could have used this, so, depending on how it's marketed, how much it'll be used right away, but it can be used for next winter as well too. So whatever isn't spent can be used for 2 seasons before the 2026 deadline. So
Do we have the deadline for the 2026? Is it a calendar year?
it's calendar, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
so you could potentially get 2.5 seasons.
right.
Okay. And the technology upgrade timeline, you said people were onboarding? or-
Yeah, they did onboarding workshops, the company, so they're now moving forward with implementation. They're giving us a 6 to 8 week timeframe. I told them it needs to be 6 weeks. They're going to be doing concurrently taking over the network, the email migration, and the workstation implementation. So they have different teams that will be doing different pieces. So once they onboard the managed service provider to take over the network, all of this will start happening concurrently. So my push to them is, I said, we need to have this by the end of the year, 6 week timeframe. They were kind of pushing it to 8 weeks, but at least by the first of the year, this needs to be substantially done. It may not be 100%, but at least it's up and running and people are using the new services. And it will include the police department. I know they said that was a kind of a technical work that kind of slowed them down. And then once that gets all implemented, then they'll work on the fire department as well too. So it'll be all a town-wide network that all the town departments and buildings will be part of, so, in the cloud.
So selfishly, when can we expect our email to switch over?
I think that's what I was telling them, that 6 week timeframe. So by the end of the calendar year that we want, they're working on email migration now. I don't know whatever that means. So they do have an engineer working on that. So I said to them, I want to see that piece done by the end of this calendar year.
Okay. Okay. I think that's it for our
Thank you.
ARPA topic. Town administrators report.
Madam Chair, the biggest issue I just kind of wanted to bring forward, I think maybe people in the community may have received letters regarding their water service and their water pipes. So I just kind of wanted to discuss that a little bit for the board, but also for the public, that the Department of Public Works was doing a water line survey. They're trying to gather information from private residences so that they can determine, what the system is and what's needed. There wasn't a lot of completed surveys, not a lot of compliance for people. So the DEP requires certain steps that they have to take. And one of them was sending out some notices that just went out recently to certain people that say you may have potential of lead in your water. That's kind of the standard format that the DEP required them to use. But as the DPW had said to me, that they have not found any lead in any water sampling, and that if there is anything, it may be a lead connection. It's not in any town pipes. So the town doesn't have any lead. That's why we're trying to ask people to take pictures of what the pipes are coming into their house. There's a video on the DPW website to explain what we're looking for, what we're asking people to do. They can send in photos, they can complete a survey online, just trying to get the information so we know what is in each household. So with these letters going out, that the DEP required, it kind of generated a lot of calls because people are saying that they may have lead in their lines. So we want to try to at least try to calm people that they don't have lead. We're just asking if it's potential, but we're most likely they don't. If they can just send us a picture of their service connection, then the department can determine and make a decision.
So, and realistically, you don't know if they have lead or not based upon however that water goes from the town into the house. So if they have, but there's potential,
Right.
which is why they need, so that's still open, the survey's still open?
Right.
All right, because I know I did get it, and I definitely slacked, but I will do that.
Good, thank you.
Is that it?
So that's mostly what I have, yeah.
Administrative business. Parks and Recreation Department is requesting a $500 petty cash advance for concession setup for the annual Holiday Pops concert.
I'll make a motion to approve the request of $500 to the Parks and Recreation Department for the setup of the annual Holiday Pops concerts concession.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, old and new business, we have recruitment policy. You want to go through that, Ed?
Yeah, I did have some handies out before. Pass these down, Sean. So this is very initial proposal, totally up for feedback, totally up for adjusting any of the stages or any of the time, but this is just a proposal that I put together for, I don't think it's necessary for all, but I'm saying for the department heads and assistant town administrator, those roles moving forward, I would propose that they get handled in this manner. So, notice received, that kicks it off, their 2-week notice, whatever. Within 2 weeks from that time, the board selects one select board member to oversee the process. Within 2 weeks of the notice being received, the job is posted. Within 4 weeks from the notice, a search committee is formed. After the job is posted, assess the applications after 5 weeks. If we think we have a sufficient amount of applications, we can close the window. If not sufficient, we can remain open for another 3 weeks. After 8 weeks, if we still do not have a sufficient amount of applicants, then we would reassess the position with the personnel board to see if we are well below market value, what's the reason, why did we not get so many applicants, and hopefully get updates to that position, and then post again after the update, and then it would revert back to the posted section of the timeframe. If we do get enough applications, once the window is closed, the goal would be to get down to 3 to 5 finalists 2 weeks after applications have been closed. After that, it would allow for 3 weeks to conduct interviews for those 3 to 5 finalists. And once we did decide on one person for the job, it would allow for 2 weeks for offers made and negotiations. So that's the proposal. We can, put it into like a timeline format or something, but This is, like I said, this is just a initial proposal to get the conversation going. So no, I'm not requesting anybody, not looking for any votes or anything on this. I just wanted to kind of get the ball rolling. So everyone can review this and we can put it on as a topic of conversation at a future meeting, and we can see if people have feedback to it and if they want to make any adjustments to any of these recommendations.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the kind of outline. I think it'll maybe help with some questions and clarity that were part of the lag from the summer. Okay,
I have, that's all for,
for recruiting,
oh, no, okay, so my fault. This is still old and new business, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so, did we already talk about the,
no, we're.
oh, that's
on
a recruiting,
schedule.
okay.
Yeah,
Can I just bring one thing up before
Sure.
I forget this? So I had been, one of the firefighters in town had reached out about the discrepancy going on with the deduction from their paycheck going into the pension account. And I was notified that it's still happening. So I don't know what needs to happen or what we need to, but whatever the resolution was, it doesn't seem to be consistent.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to call, I saw the emails today, I'm gonna have to call the company and find out, because the treasurer's office indicated that they've made all of the postings up to date as of last week. So the employees said that they still aren't seeing them in their account. So payroll deductions come out of the employee's account, it goes to the company, and it sits in their account, and then the town then sends a notice as to how much goes to each person. So then, once the company gets that notice, then they post that money to where it should go. So the treasurer's office has indicated that their piece has been done, but the employees are saying that's still not showing up in their individual accounts. So we're gonna have to reach out tomorrow to the company and find out where, what the issue is. Do they have the money? Do they not have it? Did they get the posting report? But the treasurer's office showed me a confirmation report showing that they confirmed where all the money gets distributed, so.
Is it all of the department, or is it just, is it,
certainly fire at the moment, but.
no, but I mean, is it all of the fire, or is it just,
No, it's,
Certain ones,
a couple.
it's a voluntary program that people are in. So there's currently, I think, 7 employees that are in that, so.
so all of those 7 are experiencing the same difficulty?
I'm not
Two
sure.
have
I think
followed
we've
up
heard
with us
from
directly.
3 out of the 7. I'm not sure about all of them.
So you're saying the treasurer collectors reached out to Nationwide to resolve the issue?
I don't know if they've reached out to resolve it. They showed me that they had a confirmation report that they did their piece. So I'll ask them tomorrow to reach out to Nationwide and see if everything is all set, so.
Okay. If they continue, I mean, is there someone that employees can call for Nationwide if their accounts are not representative of what they have?
Yeah,
It just seems like it's been going on for a few,
Yeah, we can
4
find out.
times. There's obviously like some type of disconnect, so I'm just trying to resolve this before it continues on, so. Okay, next up is personnel hiring updates.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to present some information on the outstanding vacancies that we have, just starting with some of our positions and going through each one, but thankfully, we're able to hire someone for to help out in our recycle center, Tom O'Toole, who's retired, person in the community who has volunteered. We've been looking for a year for somebody, so we appreciate him stepping up. That'll help with coverage at the center to make sure that we're able to service the public. Secondly, just as an FYI to the board, Jolisa Chenard has been hired in the assistant treasurer office. and she's taking over, and everyone is kind of in varied duties there, but that it will be focus a lot on payroll, for that was the person that left in that position. In terms of the Assistant Town Administrator, was putting forward to the board Joyce Corbacero for that position. And then for a Human Resource Manager, Ray Aguirre for that position. And those two positions as being senior management, the Select Board has a 15-day period to review. I know I sent the board some information today. I know it was probably late in the afternoon, so that's information for the board's discussion. The other position is the Building Commissioner position. We had 3 individuals who were certified Building Commissioner. We interviewed. After the interviews, 1 withdrew, and there was 1 that did go through the process. We made an offer to, but we weren't able to come to terms on salary. So right now, the request is over the grid, which I don't believe that there's any mechanism to go beyond what is in that range for the position right now. I can certainly reach out to town council to see if there is anything further, but I think it's probably looking at either reposting or seeing if the board has any thoughts about asking for a building inspector instead of building commissioner, and how, if you have any advice of how you want to proceed, so.
Just,
How do you think we should proceed with the building
that's what I
commissioner?
was going to say.
I don't know if we're going to be able to find another commissioner. I mean, I would love to repost to see what's out there, but I don't want to delay the process and another months, several months. So I think there'll be a lot more candidates as a building inspector, but then that would mean we're continuing on the consultant relationship that we have right now.
So you want to go out and look again?
Can I just?
Is that- I'm just trying to be
Madam Chairman,
clear.
I know that we're paying for the commissioner's services,
Consultant, right?
the consultant. So is that fixed into the amount that you have to offer, so that you can't make the offer higher because you have to?
No,
Sure,
the
that-
offer,
was that a
the
separate-
offer is within a range of the grid. So
Right.
there was a personnel grid that was adopted by town meeting.
Correct,
And
correct.
that is a min and a max. So the discussions that we had, is beyond the max.
Right.
So it's not a course of funding, it's the authorization to be able to offer beyond the maximum range of
I
that
understand
position.
that, but we're giving additional money to someone that has the commissioner's license.
Right.
Is that a budget item, is what I'm asking? Is that in the budget?
That's in the departmental budget line
Okay,
item, right?
that was my question.
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I would, my suggestion or my preference would be that the town administrator meet with the personnel board before reposting this, because it sounded like this candidate, there was interest from both sides. So before we go through the process of reposting it, I would like to see that this is exhausted. And at least the personnel board can weigh in if necessary, and then, go from there. I think I think they meet just after Thanksgiving. Is that, I think, right around there?
The week after, I believe, yeah.
And then if it looks like if the town administrator's hands are tied and we're kind of stuck at the impasse, then repost, but
Yeah.
if we're looking for a commissioner and if we're in negotiations with one, then let's exhaust that option.
I would also too note, like, you're saying there's no mechanism if it's outside of the grid. Is that something that we'll need to address in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could be addressed in the future, but, you know, if the grid is the grid, I don't know, like, if there isn't any limits on the grid, then you can just offer anything then, you know?
Well,
so-
the option would,
Well-
there is an opportunity for evaluating the classification.
Right.
Okay, is that the mechanism?
That would be a
A mechanism?
mechanism.
That would be a mechanism, yeah.
And I guess while we're on the topic, how often is the salary grid reviewed? 5 years?
That was what was suggested after the last time, but it was 2017 and then 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple
Okay.
years.
Okay. And then, so, for the department heads,
So, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to accept the requested appointment for the Human Resources Manager position as put forth by the Town Administrator.
I'll second.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I'll make a motion that we waive the 15-day period, right? Isn't that, don't we have to wait, I'll make a motion that we waive the 15-day period of consideration.
For
The Human Resources position.
second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
For the Assistant Town Administrator position, I make a motion to reject the appointment put forth by the Town Administrator.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay. Are there any committee reports? Nope. No community?
Last call for the dog park feasibility committee. We still only have 3 people, and it'd be great to have more. So if you're interested in looking into the feasibility of a dog park in Clinton, please hit me up at skerrigan@clintonma.gov.
Okay. All right, we are going to leave open session to go into an executive session for the gymnasium lease negotiation strategy. We will not be returning to open session. I think so.
Roll call. Ed DeVault, aye.
Sean Kerrigan, aye.
Julie Bruce, aye.
Matt Cobus, aye.
Mary Dick, aye.
Racing.
All right.